Imagine you are sitting in a massive, truly cavernous stadium. 80,000 people are just buzzing. The lights are low, and the anticipation is, well, it's thick enough to cut with a knife.
Oh, yeah, that electric feeling right before a show starts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or, honestly, just imagine you're standing on a crowded subway platform,
Yeah.
just scrolling through a highlight reel on your phone while waiting for the train.
Right. Totally different environment.
Completely different. But the thing is, it doesn't really matter where you are, because the physical effect you're about to feel is exactly the same. Suddenly, out of nowhere, you hear it.
Just that instant wall of sound.
Yeah, that very specific, rapid-fire, razor-sharp guitar riff. It takes maybe, I don't know, 2 seconds max.
Barely even that.
Right. But within those 2 seconds, your heart rate actually spikes. Your posture changes. You know exactly what song it is, and you know exactly what feeling is about to hit your nervous system.
It is an entirely visceral reaction. I mean, you aren't processing the music on an intellectual level in that moment at all.
No, not at all.
Your central nervous system is simply responding to a stimulus. It's almost involuntary, really.
And, we take moments like that completely for granted. We hear these massive, universally recognized hits, these songs that have just totally saturated our culture.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
And we just assume they exist like forces of nature, like they just fell out of the sky fully formed. But in this deep dive, we are taking a sledgehammer to that assumption.
We really are.
We have a stack of sources today detailing a comprehensive 10-part cultural and musical analysis of AC/DC's 1990 mega-hit Thunderstruck.
It's quite the breakdown.
It is. And our mission here is to tear this track down to the studs. We want to uncover how a song with almost zero actual storyline became this universal, bulletproof blueprint for pure, shocking energy.
And it's a blueprint that still works perfectly today.
Exactly. And more importantly, we're going to look at what this one specific track can teach you about how we all interact with media, with music, and with each other right now. Because it is amazing what you find when you look closely at the hidden architecture of the things we hear every single day.
Yeah, to understand how a song like Thunderstruck completely takes over a culture and, holds on to that dominance for decades, you can't start by looking at the lyrics.
Right.
Or the band's legacy, or the music video. You have to start at the very first millisecond. You have to look at the hook that grabs you and the invisible, highly engineered studio structure that actually holds that hook together.
So let's talk about that for a second. That famous guitar intro. Angus Young's fingers just flying across the fretboard.
It's iconic.
It really is. And the sources we're looking at make a really compelling point about this. That intro isn't just there to set a mood. It acts as a literal alarm bell.
Yeah, an acoustic jolt.
Exactly. It's built on this incredible tonal clarity, intense rhythmic conciseness, and this escalating repetition. It doesn't ease you into a world, it essentially jolts you awake.
What's fascinating here is how the sources describe this as an expectation economy. Think about what a musical riff actually does from a psychological standpoint.
Okay, I'm tracking.
This particular motif, the rapid, repeating hammer-ons and pull-offs on the guitar string, it isn't just a catchy melody. It is fundamentally a promise.
A promise to the listener.
Right. It's a promise to you that a massive release of energy is coming. Every single time that rapid pattern loops, the acoustic tension increases. It's an incredibly economic use of sound. I mean, they are doing the absolute most with the absolute least.
Wow, yeah.
And this specific immediate design is exactly why it fits so perfectly into today's fragment culture.
Fragment culture. Okay, let's define that real quick. Are we talking about the way we consume media in these tiny bite-sized pieces now, like the infinite scroll?
That's the core of it, yeah. In today's digital landscape, a song has to prove its identity and its value in the first few seconds of a video or a streaming playlist.
Right, or you just swipe.
Exactly. The algorithms on Spotify or TikTok will just bury a track if listeners skip it within the first 10 seconds. If a band takes, say, a minute and a half to slowly build an atmospheric intro,
the listener is already long gone.
they've swiped past. So that rapid-fire guitar intro acts as an instant identifier. It functions perfectly in isolation. It literally carries the DNA of the entire track before the singer has even taken a breath.
Okay, let's unpack this because there is a serious tension here that I think we need to address. Rock music, historically, has this heavy mythology attached to it.
Oh, absolutely. The whole ethos.
Right. It's supposed to be raw, sweaty, spontaneous. Four guys in a garage just pouring their souls out, trying to capture lightning in a bottle.
The whole grunge aesthetic or punk.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
you're telling me this overwhelming primal impact is actually the result of a highly calculated, almost scientific studio trick.
Yeah, the analysis directly challenges what musicologists call the authenticity myth. We have this ingrained habit of equating loud and aggressive with unfiltered and raw.
We really do.
We think if it sounds chaotic, it must have been recorded chaotically. But the raw, immediate impact of Thunderstruck is actually the direct result of meticulous sound architecture and incredibly precise audio engineering.
So it's not just turning all the amps up to 11.
Not at all. If four guys just played as loud as they could in a room, it wouldn't sound like Thunderstruck. It would sound like a muddy mess.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that. How does that architecture actually work technically? Because when you put on headphones and listen to it, it just sounds huge. It sounds like a solid wall of sound.
It sounds huge, but it is deliberately not a solid wall of noise. That is the crucial distinction here. The production relies on a delicate engineering concept, the balance of separation and bundling.
Separation and bundling, okay.
In a studio, you have a finite amount of acoustic real estate, which is measured in frequencies. If you mix the bass guitar, the rhythm guitar, the drums, and the vocals to all be as loud as possible in the exact same mid-range frequencies.
They just clash with each other.
Exactly. They cancel each other out. It just becomes a blur.
So instead of a wall, it's more like a perfectly organized highway.
Oh.
Like if all the cars are jammed into one lane, you just have a traffic jam of noise. But the engineers put the bass in the slow lane, the vocals in the fast lane, and let that sharp guitar just weave between them.
That is a perfect analogy. They used equalization EQ to literally carve out invisible sonic holes in the track.
Oh, wow.
They scooped out certain frequencies from the rhythm section so that sharp, high-pitched guitar riff could live there unobstructed. The guitar riff is given the space to cut sharply through the mix.
So you hear every single note.
Right. And then the rhythm section is positioned lower down to carry the heavy weight, the actual physical punch to your chest. And the vocals are layered in the upper frequencies to pierce right through the top of it all.
That's wild.
It is a masterclass in dynamic restraint. By not filling every single sonic gap with noise, they create a negative space that makes the heavy moments feel significantly heavier. They constructed this audio environment that sounds massive, yet is tight enough to deliver intense, directional physical pressure.
And that physical pressure perfectly sets up the next phase of the song's attack, right?
Right.
Because once that sonic architecture has built up all that immense tension and hooked your attention, the song does something highly unusual.
It really does.
It completely bypasses the part of your brain that is looking for a story, and it goes straight for your motor functions.
Yes. It shifts from being just a sonic experience to a deeply physical one. The analysis highlights how the track organizes time. We are talking about a rigid 4-on-the-floor beat sitting right around 134 beats per minute.
Which is pretty fast.
It's driving. That specific rhythm does not invite quiet, seated contemplation. You aren't meant to sit back, close your eyes, and ponder the meaning of the lyrics.
Definitely not.
The linear, relentless forward movement forces physical participation. It relies on a biological phenomenon called entrainment, where your brain waves and your heartbeat naturally synchronize with a strong external rhythm.
So what does this all mean? Is the song basically acting as a collective pacemaker for the audience?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is exactly how participation works in a mass context. Think about a stadium filled with 80,000 people from completely different backgrounds.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You need a mechanism to get all 80,000 nervous systems operating on the exact same wavelength at the exact same time. The barrier to entry here is deliberately low.
Because it's just a straight driving beat.
Right. The rhythm is unyielding, it's clear, and perfectly predictable. It gives your brain an incredibly easy access point to join in. You tap your foot, you nod your head, you sync up with the person right next to you. It overrides individual thought and creates a shared temporal reality.
That makes so much sense. And we can't talk about that shared physical reality without talking about the voice. Because Brian Johnson's vocals come in, and they are doing something very specific.
Very specific, yeah.
He does not sound like a folk singer whispering an intimate secret into a microphone. The voice here isn't telling a delicate psychological story. The sources refer to it as a public voice or a vocal gesture.
It sits right on the ragged border between singing and shouting. And again, that is entirely by design. An intimate, highly nuanced vocal performance with Lots of subtle breath work and complex vibrato.
To just get crushed by the guitars.
It would get completely lost in the sheer scale of the instrumental pressure we just talked about. Furthermore, he's pushing his vocal cords to the absolute upper limit of his register.
Yeah, sounds like it hurts.
It probably does. Biologically, when we hear another human pushing their voice to the point of strain, our primitive brain registers it as a signal of distress or extreme intensity.
Oh, so it's an alarm bell, just like the guitar intro.
Yes. And by utilizing a vocal style that is essentially a collective, strained call, it actively invites the crowd to echo it. The chant of thunder in the background is the ultimate proof of this.
Oh, right. Everyone can shout thunder.
Exactly. It verifies the intensity of the track. It tells the listener, yes, this is an overwhelming event without ever bogging you down in complicated narrative details.
But wait, let's talk about those narrative details, or rather, the total lack of them. Because if you read the lyrics to Thunderstruck on a piece of paper,
Yeah.
they don't exactly read like Nobel Prize-winning poetry.
No, they definitely do not.
But the sources argue that the fact that the vocals are shouting rather than storytelling isn't a lyrical failure. They argue that this lack of a story is actually the song's ultimate secret weapon for surviving across decades.
That brings us to the concept of semantic openness. When critics analyze hit songs, they often look for narrative complexity. They look for character arcs, deep emotional conflicts, philosophical resolutions.
And Thunderstruck offers absolutely none of that.
None. Zero.
The lyrics are described in our sources as an ellipse. They're just fragments, like sound of the drums tearing me apart, road down the highway. There's no intricate plot. You don't know who is driving, where they're going, or why.
Right.
You just get these flashing signals of an overwhelming state of shock or electricity or sudden impact.
Traditionally, a music critic might look at that and say the song lacks depth, it's shallow, but the analysis flips that assumption completely on its head. The lack of a specific narrative isn't a weakness, it is a profound structural advantage.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the song doesn't give us the who, what, where, and why. It acts as an emotional blank canvas. I like to think of it as an adrenaline Mad Libs.
Adrenaline Mad Libs, I like that.
Yeah. Because if the song was a highly detailed story about a specific breakup in 1989, it would be trapped in that context. But because it's just this vague, driving energy, you can paste it over almost anything.
Anywhere you need energy.
Exactly. You can paste it over a hockey game, you can paste it over an action movie trailer, or you can paste it over your morning workout. You, the listener, get to fill in the blanks with whatever you are doing.
The German analysis we reviewed uses the term ausschlussfähig, which translates roughly to connectable.
Connectable, right?
Because it lacks a rigid, dictatorial story, it can seamlessly attach itself to radically different contexts. Over time, it transforms from being just a piece of rock music into a functional cultural signal.
A functional signal.
When you hear that guitar riff, it signals to your brain that an intense, high-stakes event is currently happening or is about to happen.
And that signal quality is why it absolutely thrives in today's platform-driven media. We talked about fragment culture earlier. When a TikTok creator or a sports broadcaster or a video game designer needs to instantly convey hype to an audience, they reach for this track. It is a universal shorthand.
It is the ultimate utility. But the sources are careful to point out that this connectability is a double-edged sword. On one hand, this semantic openness is what allows the song to achieve incredible cross-generational reach and massive cultural circulation.
Yeah, teenagers today who weren't even born when the song came out recognize it instantly.
Exactly. But on the other hand, there is the massive risk of functional narrowing.
Functional narrowing. You mean the song becomes a victim of its own success, like it gets reduced to a sound effect?
That's a great way to put it. When a song is used so frequently as a generic hype cliche, when it's played in every monster truck commercial, every minor league baseball stadium, every internet fail compilation,
You kind of get numb to it.
people start to only hear it as that cliche. They completely forget the brilliant, meticulous musical construction underneath it.
Which we just spent 10 minutes talking about.
Right. The complex studio architecture, the EQ frequency carving, the brilliant tension of the all of that gets completely overshadowed by its function as a mere button on a soundboard. The high art of its engineering gets narrowed down to a blunt utility.
And we have to remember where that utility was originally designed to be used. This universal hype signal was quite literally built to be scaled up into massive physical spaces. It carries very specific cultural codes with it, which means we have to decode the stadium experience.
The song is engineered for stadium logic. When you are projecting sound to tens of thousands of people in an arena, acoustic subtlety is your enemy.
Right, a delicate acoustic guitar finger-picking pattern will just turn to mush bouncing off the concrete.
Exactly. You have to organize attention across massive, heterogeneous crowds using broad, undeniable strokes.
And the song doesn't just do that through sound. It dictates visual and physical roles on the stage. The band members become avatars of this energy, turning the music into a tangible, visible event.
Visualizing the sound.
Right. The guitarist in the schoolboy outfit isn't just playing notes. He's physically performing the electricity. The singer straining his neck isn't just vocalizing. He's orchestrating the crowd's response.
And the energy they are projecting in those stadiums brings us to a very complex layer of the analysis. The source material notes a real friction here regarding the cultural codes embedded in the music.
This is a big point in the texts.
The song is undeniably wrapped up in historical codes of hardness, dominance, and traditional rock masculinity.
Yeah, the sources point out that friction explicitly. And to be clear to the listeners, we aren't taking a side here. We're just reporting what the texts say. The distorted guitars, the aggressive forward momentum, the shouting vocals, historically, these are all elements coded in rock history as masculine or dominant.
Right.
And people react to those codes differently. Some see it as outdated machismo, while others just see it as pure, energetic fun.
This raises an important question, and it's one the analysis handles by making a crucial distinction. We have to separate a style form from an ideological message.
A style form versus an ideological message.
Yes, the song performs a highly stylized version of strength and hardness. It puts on the costume of dominance.
So you're saying the aggression is performative. It's a sonic posture.
Precisely. It is a performative style, not a rigid political manifesto. And this ties perfectly back into the semantic openness we discussed just a few minutes ago.
Oh, because it's so vague.
Exactly. Because the lyrics are so vague and the story is so open, the listener is completely free to appropriate this energy for themselves, regardless of who they are.
So a listener today might take that historical code of masculinity or hardness and use it simply as a tool for their own personal empowerment, totally divorced from any traditional gender roles.
Absolutely.
Like a young woman stepping up to bat in a high school softball game can use that exact same sonic architecture to feel invincible, and the song perfectly accommodates that. It doesn't reject her because it's an ellipse.
The code is there, but the application is entirely flexible. The energy is transferable. And that flexibility is why the sources conclude that Thunderstruck is actually the perfect pedagogical tool.
A teaching tool.
Yeah. It is an ideal way to teach listeners and students of media how to truly analyze pop culture critically.
Because it forces you to separate what you are actually observing from the meaning you are assigning to it.
That is the core lesson here. In an educational setting, this song teaches you to start with a concrete observation. The guitar pattern is fast and repetitive.
Or the mixing board isolated the frequencies to prevent a muddy blur.
Right. Or the vocals are delivered at the straining upper edge of the singer's register. Those are verifiable acoustic observations.
Right, those are the undeniable, engineered facts of the sound architecture.
Then and only then, you move to interpretation. You might say, this rapid repetition makes my brain feel a sense of impending danger, or this strained vocal style represents a feeling of triumph and empowerment to me.
That makes a lot of sense.
The song proves that pop culture isn't just a binary of good or bad or deep or shallow. It is a highly complex, meticulously engineered system of meaning. It shows us that even the most seemingly straightforward, adrenaline-fueled rock song is actually a masterclass in how to manipulate time, expectation, and human physical response.
It really changes how you hear the radio, doesn't it?
It really does.
You start looking for the scaffolding behind every pop song. So let's bring this all together. We've unpacked how a perfectly engineered studio track uses a complete lack of storyline, an expectation economy, and an unavoidable physical rhythm to create a cultural signal of pure energy.
A signal that works everywhere.
Right. It transcends its origins in 1990s rock to become this universal tool that we still use to hype ourselves up today.
We've seen how its semantic openness allows it to survive in any context, and how its stadium logic scales that survival up to massive proportions, all while navigating these shifting cultural codes of strength and performance.
But I want to leave you with a final, lingering thought that builds on everything our sources laid out today. We talked heavily about how perfectly this 1990 song fits into today's algorithmic, short attention span media landscape.
The fragment culture.
Exactly. It succeeds because it grabs you instantly with an alarm bell and doesn't demand you follow a complex plot. So here is the question. If Thunderstruck accidentally became the ultimate blueprint for modern media circulation purely because of its semantic openness and its instant hook.
And it was an accident back then.
Right, it was an accident. But are today's artists now consciously engineering their music to be intentionally vague and structurally shocking just to survive the algorithm?
It's a fascinating shift to consider. We've moved from accidental synergy in the 90s to deliberate algorithmic engineering today.
Has the complete lack of a story become the new required story for a massive hit? It makes you wonder what invisible architecture is holding up the very next song you're going to hear.
You'll never hear a top 40 hit the same way again.
Definitely not. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Next time you're sitting in a stadium or just scrolling on your phone and you hear a sound that makes your heart rate spike, listen a little more closely. Try to find the blueprint,